Thank you for listening to Life Improvement Radio. You are listening to a rebroadcast of a previously recorded show.
We're back live at the Miami Book Fair, and I'm with Casey. Casey, how are you?
Doing great, Neil. How are you?
Fantastic, fantastic. So let's go ahead now and grab our next guest.
Okay, here's Thane Rosenbaum.
Hey, Thane. Thanks for calling, and how are you?
How are you, Neil? Thanks for including me on your program.
Oh, I appreciate it. I appreciate it greatly, for sure. And it's an interesting thing, Thane, the Miami Book Fair. The amount of interesting authors, and yet also the different stories you can tell from going to the fair, right, and talking to the people, right? It's a process. And it's a very fun thing, for sure.
Neil, you have a fun job for these 2 days. I would like it. Be able to talk to this many.
It really is fun because you develop that story. You get that story, and you have that circumstance situation for sure, Thane. Tell us a little bit about your background, and we'll get to your latest book.
Well, I'm from Miami Beach, Florida, and the new novel is my newest novel, which I'm here promoting and on your program and at the book fair, is How Sweet It Is, with a exclamation mark at the end, which for people of a certain generation, they may remember that was Jackie Gleason's signature line. And It's a novel, it's a comedic novel set in 1972 in Miami Beach, with a number of historical characters, all of whom were in Miami Beach in 1972 for different reasons. Even though Miami Beach was a very small town, it hosted both the Democratic and Republican conventions, which drew a lot of people. So there was, that summer, Muhammad Ali was here throughout the year because he was trying to reclaim his belt from Joe Frazier after losing it, after not being able to reacquire it the first fight. Meyer Lansky, the Jewish mobster, was based in Miami Beach. Jackie Gleason was based in Miami Beach. His show on CBS, his variety show, The Jackie Gleason Show, was just taken off the air a year or two before. So Frank Sinatra was in Miami Beach. He had just retired. He was hanging around with Jackie Gleason. Isaac Bashevis Singer was here. He was 6 years away from winning the Nobel Prize for Literature. He was in Surfside writing short stories and novels. I think I even have a guest cameo from Fidel Castro, who I'm not sure was here in 1972. So it's sort of a comedic romp that looks. The Miami Herald said it was a Valentine's to Miami Beach, and it is. It's funny, and it does provide a kind of local color that I recognized when I was 12 years old, growing up here.
Wow. Definitely something quite interesting for sure. And the amount of research thing you had to go through to write this book. Tell us about that. Yeah.
Well, Neil, the beauty of a fiction writer is you can make stuff up. So I didn't really do much research. I put the characters probably never really spent any time with each other than Gleason and Sinatra. None of them really probably ever saw each other, even though it was a small town. But I put them together in situations and dialogue that, I completely invented. But I knew that Isaac Singer was, taking notes and sort of observing the mating habits of Jewish refugees through research. I knew that Meyer Lansky had just been extradited from Israel back to Miami to stand trial in a federal tax evasion case. He had tried to escape by moving to Israel. I knew that. By the way, The Godfather came out in 1972, so mobsters were very much on the minds of most people in 72. And if you remember from Godfather 2, the character that Meyer Lansky is being portrayed by Lee Strasberg gets assassinated at the Miami International Airport. That's not what happened in real life. In real life, he does come back to Miami Beach. He does stand trial, and he gets acquitted. So he doesn't serve any jail time, and he basically lives out the rest of the years of his life very bitter that he lost all of his hotels to Fidel Castro, who took his hotels and nationalized them. I didn't do any real research on Sinatra, really. Gleason, maybe a little, about what he was doing before he moved to Miami Beach. I just made it up. It's very much, Neil, in the spirit of E.L. Doctorow's Ragtime. In the sense that it's really about the time, the place, and the famous people in the novel. And then, yes, there is a fictional family, the Posner family, but they're like the spokes around which that connect to the wheel. all the characters somehow get funneled and filtered through them. The 72 Olympics in Munich is in the novel because for Jewish Americans, that was a huge Olympics for two reasons. One, Mark Spitz, won 7 medals, and
right.
That was sort of the world's first great Jewish athlete. So Jews really were excited about that. But then 2 weeks later, the entire Israeli team was assassinated, murdered. So it had a real up and down year. And so I talk about how in the novel that affected the people of Miami Beach because there were a lot of Jews living there, and they were proud 1 week, and then 2 weeks they were, mourning the death of these Israeli athletes. So, I did a little research on the killing of the Israeli team, but not that much.
Interesting. So not much research, but a lot of creativity, Thane, involved in this. For sure, to have all these people together at one time and to figure out historically what you knew about 72, so that helps a lot in that process.
I did, although I must say I was 12, like the character in the book is, but I didn't really understand what was going on when I was 12. It took years later that I realized, wait a minute, all those people were here in 1972? In the novel, the hippies and anti-war protesters against the Vietnam War come to Miami Beach to protest at the conventions like they did in 1968 to end the war in Vietnam. And they end up camping out in Flamingo Park. And the city was worried that they would have the same kind of rioting that took place in Chicago. So they basically give the hippies and anti-war protesters carte blanche in the park. You can smoke pot, you can take drugs, you can have sex, you can use the swimming pool for skinny dipping at night. Just don't hassle anyone in the suit. They cut a deal with them, and it kind of worked. There was very little violence. So I have an orgy scene because it happened. The hippies actually were having, group sex in center field, and everyone apparently knew this was going on. Now, Neil, I did not know. I was 12. I wish I did know. I wish someone told me, and I would have gone down there. But, later I found out that, the park was a tremendous place of iniquity. So there was a lot of color for a sleepy town. The summer of 72, the 2 conventions, and then that entire year of various people coming in and out. The city also was not like South Beach it is today, very glamorous. It was fading. The hotels were fading. The tourism business was fading. So it was a city that was looking for a second chance. Meyer Lansky was hoping that they could get gambling in Miami Beach, and instead it ended up at Atlantic City. And he thought that was his one opportunity to reclaim his hotels by having gambling on Collins Avenue here in Miami Beach. But the rest of the state voted it down each time that they had a public referendum.
Wow, Thane, a lot involved in this. And what's been the feedback so far for your book?
People think it's, people are surprised by it because they hadn't put these characters together. Around the country, people where I travel, I've gone on a book tour, national book tour, and people are going, wow, that's interesting. That's an interesting, and I said it's partly because I lived here that I picked up on this eventually, but people always wondered, how come no one thought of this before? Because it was an interesting year in the life of the city. It is a funny novel, but there's a kind of post-Holocaust backdrop, which is what many of my novels have. So there's a little darkness in it. But overall, it's like it's a romp, putting all these characters together in funny comedic situations. I do even a mini Watergate at one of the hotels because I had heard from All the President's Men that the Watergate burglars had decided that if they didn't succeed at Watergate, they would try it again at the Democratic Convention at the Octagon Hotel. And when I read that, I went, oh, my God, that's incredible because, everything that has to do with conspiracies ends in gate, Watergate, Spygate, Monica Gate. And I thought, it could have been Octagon. Octagon would have been the last agon for everything that would have been conspiratorial.
Well, fantastic, Thane. Best place to find information on you and purchase your book, where can we go?
Well, I have a website, ThaneRosenbaum.com. And that's one place. But, of course, all of my novels and nonfiction can be found on Amazon and on BarnesandNoble.com. And I welcome as many readers, and feel free to write to me at thane.rosenbaum@nyu.edu, where I'm a distinguished fellow, whatever that means.
And it's funny, all the professors of universities, that's always what Lisa Paley likes hooking me up with, because she knows I'll connect with these educators because their job, they're writer by night, teacher by day, and then the passion that you guys bring to the table, and I promote you very well for your audience, especially when you get back teaching again. And when can I tweet? When can I Facebook? Well, I'll try to do all that for you guys. So thanks for calling, and best of luck.
And hey, Neil, I'll be boosting your show too. I put it on my Facebook page, on my website. I'll tweet it out. I want the world to know what you're doing for authors and books. It's a very invaluable service, and we're all very grateful to you.
Thank you, Thane. I appreciate that, and we'll definitely stay in touch. Best of luck to you, and thanks for calling. And let's go.
Please
bring it
do.
Back. All right, thanks.
Okay, thanks so much, Neil. Be well. Bye.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to Life Improvement Radio. The views expressed by show hosts or their guests are their own and shall not be construed in any way as advice from Life Improvement Radio. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our website. Personal perspectives expressed by the producers, writers, or editors will always be presented as such. Any rebroadcast or retransmission without the expressed written consent of Life Improvement Radio is strictly prohibited. Thanks for listening.